If you're a hamster, make sure you at least like the wheel. That's my advice to you. The biggest mistake people make with this is that there's different angles for the torso. If you are short on space and you buy a fixed bench, you're gonna be rolling in your grave, okay? Otherwise, you make this investment, you take this home, and you're filled with nothing but regret. All right, I'm gonna teach you the 5 most common mistakes I see when my clients or people build out home gyms. And this is the kind of stuff that's gonna have you selling this stuff on OfferUp, Facebook Marketplace, etc. after you buy it and just regretting you spent so much money on it. And it's so funny, I had a client get a piece of equipment the other day and they go, yeah, it was basically free. And then they go, it wasn't free, it actually cost me hundreds of dollars in gas and time and getting a friend to lift it and transport it. And then he was like, I hate having this thing, I'm just trying to get rid of it. And that's why you see so much stuff that's just like free online, because you don't want to make these mistakes. So here's the 5 most common mistakes. Number 1, you buy a fixed bench. So if you don't know what that means, benches come either fixed flat, you can get them fixed incline with a little bit of adjustment, you can get the low seated military press ones. Man, if you are short on space and you buy a fixed bench, you're gonna be rolling in your grave, okay? Because the fixed bench is only really good for 2 things. A fixed bench makes sense if you're powerlifting. You get a super wide, flat fixed bench and you're powerlifting, you're doing a ton of max strength work, that's gonna be great. If you're a super wide person, the fixed bench is nice because your back barely fits on there. All right, other than that, the fixed bench, it's not really something that you wanna have, you wanna use, because there are 3 primary angles in a good training program. They are incline, they are flat, and they are decline. And it's not just for pressing. You wanna do your rows, your pulling exercises, your skull crushers, your accessory exercises on these different angles. And if you got a fixed bench, pretty much what's gonna happen is you're gonna be like, I'm not stimulated, this thing's taking up a ton of space, and I wish I had a angled bench to do more things, and then that thing is just taking up space. So number 1, do not buy a fixed bench there. That's the only thing you got from this video, just save yourself a ton of headaches. And I bought a ton of fixed benches when I first started my gym because we didn't use that many angles, and those are things that I ended up getting rid of a ton of. Now, number 2, buying a fixed barbell and plate. So I've got a fixed barbell kind of behind me. I've got a plate here in the shot. Maybe you can't see it, maybe you can, but I use that for angled pressing. And in my gym, I actually have angled press landmine set up, so I don't even have to put them into a plate. And in my other facility I actually had a Sornex, I think it was called a Sornex landmine, and it was actually this giant machine that took up tons of space. It was really expensive, custom ordered, green gloss painted, and it basically let me do like angled presses, lifting, squatting, connection bars, anything I wanted. Now, problem with that, just long story short, is the bar I think started at 65 pounds. And so to get clients to use 130-pound press pretty much starting on day 1 wasn't really good for anything beside max effort. So you gotta think about how scalable your equipment is when you own a facility. For most people, that's not ideal, but that's why I'm bringing this up, because how scalable is the barbell and the fixed plates? If you don't have a lot of space, it's not that scalable. And so you got a barbell, a lot of it is gonna be double hand exercise. It's gonna be what I call bilateral compression, which means you're always pressing yourself on both sides at one time. When you have dumbbells, you can press and open one side at a time. And that's a huge advantage, especially if you have mobility restrictions. And so this is one of the things we talked about, recovery. If that's an important goal of yours, if you want to feel better in your body, then recovery is going to be very important. How much your body can recover and not be inflamed and move fluids correctly through the different joints. That's going to determine how long you actually end up using this stuff. I got a really beautiful spin bike that is very hard to get, and I picked it up from a really high-end neighborhood. And I remember buying this bike, and she sold it to me for almost nothing, and I go, man, this is a nice bike, can't believe you're selling it. And she goes, yeah, my shoulders hurt so bad from holding the spin bike. It's not my legs, not my knees. I can't even hold myself up anymore because of that bilateral compression of doing this. So think about it, if you do this with a barbell all the time, you are creating a double layer compression, and over time, that is going to create restriction mobilities, and this poor lady had to give me her bike. Worked out for me, didn't work out for her. Well, you wanna think about this, that when we're buying barbells and plates, first of all, go dumbbells, and we wanna get weight jumps that are appropriate. So I own lots of dumbbells. In my facility, I have double sets of dumbbells. My dumbbells go up from 2 pounds to 110 pounds each hand. Now, I've been collecting dumbbells for a long time. So when it comes to spending money on dumbbells, I'm your guy. Then I have dumbbells here that are free dumbbells, and then I have power blocks over there, which go up to 90-something pounds. So I've got dumbbells on top of dumbbells. Now, I'll tell you this really simple. You probably wanna buy power blocks right now. You wanna buy these metal adjustable dumbbells. Some people are like, oh, let me do the knockoff brands and whatnot. Trust me, I bought the plastic Bowflex, sold those to a client, got rid of those. A lot of those plastic locking mechanisms, you gotta think, if you're even rough on it, you snap that plastic, you get a weight plate that just drops right in while you're pressing it. Hits you in the face, hits you in the mouth, you'd be eating out of a straw. You don't want that, because I can't tell you how many personal training clients I've worked with had one bad thing happen on their way to their New Year's fitness journey and totally demotivated them, and then they just quit. Whether their car got broken into because they got a gym membership at a part of town that was not good and they left something in there, someone broke into it, or they were just using a piece of weight and they dropped it and it broke a toe, or they hit themselves in the mouth, or they broke a finger. So you don't want to get cheap stuff. You don't want to get selectorized equipment that adjusts. That's cheap either. Make sure you know how to use it. Really important. Injuries, no fun. You don't need any more barriers to you getting fit. So when it comes to the dumbbells, power blocks are great. Here's one of the reasons why I love the power blocks is they go up by about 2.5 pounds. They have these little micro jumps in there, and that's really important. We're going to talk about that in step 2 of how to be successful with at-home personal training programs. Okay, so power blocks are going to be great. So no barbells and plates at first. I'd recommend, unless you're like, I'm an experienced weightlifter, which by the way, if you are probably watching this video, you probably aren't going to get a lot until I start breaking out into the periodization portion. But one of the things is that if you're watching this, you're like, man, should I get barbells? They seem like they take up a bunch of space. Barbells start at 45 pounds. I've got tons of specialty bars in my gym, like 15 pounds, 25 pounds. So I can scale that in a personal training environment. But it takes a lot of space to have a bar holder with 6 different bars and then to put it away and then get it back out and put it away and get it back out. The reason I leave this one down here for angled pressing is I don't like to pick it up, put it in. Takes me a whole 10-15 seconds. Doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're working out in a cold garage, sure is a demotivator and another reason not to do it. So don't give yourself more of those. Skip the barbell, skip the dumbbells, get some power blocks, talk to your trainer. Now, number 3, getting a rig without cables. Okay, so this is a huge one. I got a rig and this one has 4 cable attachments. In my other gym, I have one with 6, and another one I have one with 8. Okay, so when we talk about what do I mean is there's an anchor point up here, there's an anchor point there, and there's an anchor point in the bottom. So actually this one does have 6, sorry. So why do I like this unit really simply is I can do all the angles, I can do the vertical pulling, I can do the lower pulling, and then I can actually use it for hamstring curls, okay? I'm not gonna get into all those kind of minute things, but if you get a rig like this, it's gonna take up space, okay? At this point, you're locked in. You cannot move this thing. And so you want to be clear if you need to spend the money on cables or not. Now, when I first started gym, I bought like 6 power racks, 8 power racks. I was doing a lot of group training. And for me, buying 8 of these would have cost me over $100,000. So I didn't buy these. I bought your typical Rogue powder-coated stuff, and that was cool when I was starting. But when I really started getting into strength training, I started getting into mechanics, I started getting into rotation, then you can't just use a barbell all the time. It's too limiting. And so then I had to invest into better equipment. So you got to think for yourself. And this happened. I had a client buy the nicest power rig that you can imagine. No cables. He probably spent over $10,000. And within training with us for about 6 months, he had to get rid of it because we were just like, yeah, come to the gym and we'll show you how to use the cable exercises. And he's at home, what can I do? And he only had the barbell. And we were like, all of these are compressing you and they're making your back worse. And he was like, yeah, I think so. And so he was like, I'd give it away. He gave it away for free because he needed the space, and money wasn't the priority for him, and he bought this exact rig that I have here. And so that worked out a lot better for him. You can save yourself that $10,000 mistake. Just get one. If you need cables, you think you're gonna need cables, talk to your trainer. You have options, sure you can go to another gym, but if you're gonna take up the space and you can make that investment, you probably want one with cables. Now, what I don't recommend you do, by the way, is buy something that has cables separately and then buy one of these, because now you're taking up twice the space. And there are a lot of digital tech systems. You push the button and you adjust it and it has a screen and stuff. Listen, if you're not gonna get any advice on how to do stuff, that might be better than nothing. But if you're actually gonna get professional advice and get a good program and have them do the exercise for you, they're probably gonna send you videos. Like we send our clients videos of all the exercises they do. They get instruction, they get review. You probably don't need like a digital screen with a fixed system that takes up twice the space. And those things aren't inexpensive either. Trust me, if I thought they were good, I'd have them in my gym. That's just a hint, okay? Because as a gym owner, I pay rent every single month as a lease on whatever I have in my gym. So if it's not the best, I'm getting rid of it. You won't see any of those in my gym. All right, number 4, getting a treadmill. All right, let's talk about this. You want a free treadmill? Go on Facebook Marketplace right now. You're gonna see a million. Okay, treadmills, walking pads, all those things, you're gonna get those pennies on the dollar because they take so much space up. Most people don't know how to service a treadmill, by the way. I don't know if you knew this. You do have to service the belt and you have to oil it. And you don't do this when you own a gym membership, but you actually have to take the thing apart, put oil on it, retighten it, run it. These are things that are inside the maintenance program of managing a treadmill. And so cardio equipment generally is not something that you want to get into if you don't absolutely need it. So just ask yourself this very nice question: are you actually running? Okay, if you're actually running, that's part of your program. You know you love to run, you're a triathlete like some of our clients, you're a marathon runner like some of our clients, you're doing 5Ks like some of our clients. Great, when it's rainy, you probably are gonna benefit from that piece of equipment. If you're not, really think about it because they take up a lot of space, they are higher maintenance, and most people, they try to get rid of them. And especially, there's a difference between the assault runners, those are the curved ones that you propel yourself on, you are the engine. And there's a difference between the fixed ones where the belt's moving underneath you. When the belt's moving underneath you, what happens is your knee extends and the belt keeps moving. That's not what happens. Like when you run or walk in real life, your foot hits the ground and you pull yourself through using your glute, or your backside, your hamstring. When you walk on a treadmill, that doesn't happen. The belt just keeps moving. And so you're whipping your knee over and over again. So don't recommend a lot of people use treadmills actually for that reason. Not great. And most people, not so great on the assault treadmills. But if you are gonna get one, you might consider assault treadmill. But I tell all my clients this. I had a client last week who was like, I'm trying to add some pieces to my equipment. I've got some old stuff, don't love it. We looked at it, I said, yeah, let's swap this out. He said, great, I'm gonna go to the store. And he sent me videos of the first elliptical he got on. And I was like, let's not marry the first girl we date. Can you send me some videos of some other ones? Because it just didn't look that good. So you wanna try the equipment out. Think about it, you're gonna be on this thing for hours, okay? And if you're a hamster, make sure you at least like the wheel. That's my advice to you. So you wanna go get something that's gonna feel good. And if you haven't tried a curved treadmill, try it out. The reason I'm cautioning you to try the curved treadmill out is because they're not as intuitive as you would think. They're difficult to use. I don't think that many people can run on them for that long. And so it's not like being on a regular treadmill, it's not like walking. So if you're gonna make the investment into a $4,000 piece, like the Elite Pro Assault Runner, something that's really nice, make sure you try it out, make sure you have a good experience with it. Now that brings me to walking pads, which is a different thing. What is a walking pad? It's like those desk meals. And so they are specifically for walking. A lot of them you're not supposed to run on. A lot of them aren't good weight tolerance. A lot of them aren't good for bouncing. You still have to service them. All the same thing. They're like today's modern treadmills. They're just a lot sleeker. And so walking pads are a little different because most of the time you're gonna use a walking pad, you're gonna be like on the phone. Like my wife, she has a walking pad in her office. And she takes Spanish lessons and she puts her headphones on and she talks to the lady in Spanish and they're like, tell me about your husband in Spanish. And she works on her vocab so she can become more fluent. But that is not necessarily exercise, that is locomotion. And that's because as a marketing person, she sits there and she doesn't move that much. It can be the same for me. If I'm writing a lot of programs, I'm doing a lot of mentorships, I'm not moving too much. It's better for me to be on my walking pad and I have one in my office. And the one I have takes up way more space, by the way, but you can run on it a little bit too. And so it has a little bit of versatility. But for most people, I wouldn't recommend you get a big treadmill. And it's very tempting because you can probably get one for free or $10 on Facebook Marketplace. But ask yourself, what is more expensive for you right now? Collecting stuff you're not going to use or the space you have? Okay, mistake number 5. Cardio gear, and this leads in from number 4. Cardio gear, this can be bikes, this can be ellipticals, it can be cross trainers. The biggest mistake people make with this, it's like I alluded with that lady that was on that bike and she blew her shoulders out and I ended up getting that bike, is that there's different angles for the torso. So when you're like on a spin bike, you're forward like this, and when you're on an Airdyne assault bike, you're vertical. And a lot of people, they don't do well in one or the other of these positions. They don't have the mobility in their sacrum, they don't have the mobility in their spine. And so after about 20-30 minutes maybe, or even just leaning forward, they don't have the strength in their shoulders or their wrist mobility. There's a lot of different factors. Ideally, your program helps you with recovery, and so you're working on these mobility factors, but may not be the case, just depends on who your trainer is. You wanna make sure before you put a giant piece of cardio equipment in your house, or like me, in your living room, 3 pieces, that you are gonna get the benefit out of it and that you understand that it's gonna work for your body. And realize that there are not only different angles in a lot of the bikes, but there's also different seats, okay? And a lot of times the primary complaint my clients tell me is I want to do the cardio, I get the stock bike with the stock seat and my butt hurts or my pelvic floor hurts or I'll never have children again, these kind of things. Maybe an incontinence going on with the pressure. That doesn't have to happen. You can get a different aftermarket seats. In my gym, I've swapped every seat out in any piece of stationary equipment that we have, and then in my house, I've done the same. So I don't use the stock fixings on those. They're terrible. They're absolutely terrible, and they are not gonna be comfortable. They make tons of great solutions like gel seats, wide seats. I mean, you think about it, like the average person, if your goal is to lose weight, you probably are pushing 200 pounds, and the seat's like this narrow. So the pressure of that weight going into your pelvic floor for 200 pounds, not comfortable. It can even cause some dysfunction, dysregulation. So don't make that mistake. Make sure you try the cardio equipment, make sure it's really gonna work for you, and then make sure that you make sure the seat works for you too. Otherwise, you make this investment, you take this home, and you're filled with nothing but regret. Thanks for watching this training on at-home personal training. YouTube thinks you'll love the next video, and it's perfect for you. So give it a click, see if it is.